Hello everyone, it is me again. It's I should say, that's the correct grammar. So I did a Facebook Live on Wednesday in which I was responding to a request from someone who's followed my work, and she was asking about what are the sort of forms of fear and how we can be gentle with ourselves and gentle with those parts of us that are scared. So I shared a lot that day, including about some of the crux of my work of the new self-empowerment. I got another request. I have a lot of requests actually, but the next request that I want to address is by Zineb in Morocco. And she says, when we talk about connection, it's not only connection with others, but also connection with ourselves. So I would like you to share with us tips or patterns to follow in order to be more connected to ourselves. Okay, so it's about interconnection. This is a huge topic for me. This is very big because that's really what's at the core of my work. It's all about being connected with ourselves and truly learning to honor and value ourselves in a very deep and very wise way. Part of the issue is that a lot of times, you see teachers who say, or quotes, you gotta love yourself, you gotta love yourself. But then it's like, but how do you do that? And especially when we have so many parts of us or some things inside that we just feel we can't love. Whether it's because we're afraid of letting them out of the box, if you will, or because other people have taught us that these parts of us are not lovable. There are all kinds of reasons why we do this. But in any case, I want to talk first just generally about this idea of connection and connection with self. I've found in my work and in my own life experiences that our deepest human desire is connection. That is our deepest human desire. Now, Brene Brown puts it in terms of belonging. Some people put it in terms of love. I say it's connection because we seek connection in a lot of different ways. Sometimes we seek that through romantic relationships. Sometimes we seek connection through, maybe you're someone who likes to go to Comic-Con and dress up as a, crazy character, and you love feeling that sense of connection with other people who like to do that too. Sometimes that sense of connection is a simple smile, feeling appreciated, feeling heard. So connection is our deepest human need and desire. And that's also what makes this period of time right now so incredibly hard, right? Because so many of us are being forced to disconnect, at least physically distance, right? Doesn't mean we have to emotionally distance, but it's hard not to just greet someone and hug them. It's hard not to shake someone's hand. It's hard not to have that kind of connection. And so that's what's so hard about this period, especially because if this is our deepest human need, our deepest human desire is connection, and yet we're basically being told, no, you can't connect in the regular ways, that's extremely painful and extremely jarring. So I just want to honor that for a moment. But really what we're talking about here is about inner connection with ourselves. And that is where this whole period that we're going through globally, that's where this is actually an incredible opportunity to do exactly that, to connect with ourselves. Even if that means, we're sitting at home and we're anxious and scared or what have you, there's space, at least for a lot of us, maybe not for first responders, people in the medical community or people at grocery stores, people who are sort of living their regular lives, right? They have their regular jobs. But there are those of us who are at home, and we're realizing that a lot of times when you're stuck at home and you don't have the distractions, you don't have all that busyness that kind of distracts you from yourself, all of a sudden you're really stuck with yourself. There's a wonderful title to Jon Kabat-Zinn's Zen book. It's about mindfulness. And the title is Wherever You Go, There You Are. So whether you're out and about in a store or you're here at home, wherever you go, there you are. And so this really is a fantastic opportunity for connecting with ourselves and really learning to discover ourselves and understand ourselves in a deeper way. And that is the whole purpose of my work, is to help people really learn to understand themselves in a more enlightened way. Because I think a lot of the problems that we have in societies, in humanity, in our civilization in general, is based on a deep, really sad and sick misunderstanding of who we truly are. So that's what I'm here to teach you. So I find the deepest human desire is connection, and that inner peace actually comes from that inner connection. It really is about connection with self. We can't really control whether or not other people will connect with us, but we can control whether or not we connect with ourselves. And I've found that the deepest peace I have ever experienced has been through connection with myself, truly, deeply honoring and understanding myself, because then when I'm in that space, then wherever I go, I can interact with the world from that place of connection and peace and clarity and oneness. I also want to point out that when we do have that inner peace and we do have that inner connection, that is true power. Inner peace is inner power. So a lot of our societies and our civilizations tend to, revere this and what I think is a really distorted concept of power, that it's about power over as opposed to power with. I'm all about power with. I don't want to be in power over anyone else, but unfortunately there's a really distorted perception of power. But that's why when you have inner peace, you truly have inner power. And that our deepest sense of power comes from that inner peace, comes from that harmonious, loving connection with ourselves. Again, we can't control whether or not other people connect with us. We can't control whether or not other people like us. I mean, that's just the reality. Believe me, I spent a lot of years trying to get people to like me who just wouldn't like me. And it doesn't work. It's actually a recipe for a lot of pain and a lot of struggle. But what was actually good about those experiences was they really forced me to say, you know what? Just because they don't like me doesn't mean I can't like me. Just because they don't see me and they don't love me and they don't appreciate me doesn't mean I can't do that for myself. And that's when I really took back my power from wanting or expecting other people to love me. And it's not to say that I still have that. It's not like that's gone away. But there have been some real challenges in my own personal relationships that have really given me that opportunity to discover that the true connection I seek is within, the true love I seek is already within. So part of the problem is, so her question again is, when we talk about connection, it's not only about connection with others, but connection with ourselves. So I'd like you to share with us tips or patterns to follow in order to be more connected to ourselves. Here's where I'm going to get into this idea of connection, because the other thing too is that a lot of times we've been taught, consciously and unconsciously, to judge or reject parts of ourselves. We have been taught that parts of us are shameful, wrong, bad, flawed, weak, unlovable, not good enough. Well, a lot of us have been given those messages, and they may not have even been explicit. It may be that nobody may have ever said that thing to us, and yet as kids, especially as kids, also as adults, but especially as kids, we absorb that. We absorb those unconscious messages that tell us that we're not good enough or that some part of us is weak or unlovable. For myself, I definitely grew up feeling that my emotionality, the fact that I'm very emotionally sensitive, was a shameful thing, that it was not okay and that it was a weakness that I had and I needed to fix that. As I've learned to connect with myself, right, and understand myself and honor myself and really understand and honor my emotional sensitivity, I've discovered that this is actually one of my superpowers. That my ability to empathize and tune in and intuit what's going on with someone is a huge superpower. It's what I use in my work. It's what's led to my life's calling. So that's also what can happen too, is we learn to really connect with ourselves. But what I'm really getting to here is that when we talk about connection with ourselves, it's not just about trying to connect with the parts of us that we think are good and great and that we love. No, it's about connecting with all parts of ourselves. The light of our being, if you will, as well as the darkness of our being. And I'm going to explain a little bit more about that, the darkness of our being. One of the things I often say is there is no peace in denying any part of who you are. None. I take this from experience. I have seen it happen when we try to deny or resist or struggle with or ignore or shame or do anything like that to any part of ourselves. It is a recipe for unhappiness, for inner conflict, inner struggle, and pain. But here's the thing, again, as I said, the reason why we tend to struggle with ourselves is because we judge parts of ourselves as bad or wrong or shameworthy or all kinds of other things. And yet those are misunderstandings, and that's a key part of my work. I talked about this a bit actually in the last Facebook Live that I did, in which I talked about the M-powers. Here, let me do this. The M-powers, and that they are related to the X-powers. I'll go over those really quickly again. But the point being is that what we perceive to be as bad parts of us, so I've actually discovered through my work that all of us have within us 3 types of inner struggles, okay? And the 3 types, this is all on my website, by the way, all free, thenewselfempowerment.com. You can look these up, it's all there. But anyway, the point is we have 3 types of inner struggles inside of us. We have defenders, woundeds, and controllers. Defenders are the parts of us that get very defensive and angry and resistant, and you know, they want to set boundaries and protect us. They want to protect us from pain or threat. Then we have, I'm actually going to do the controllers next. The controllers are the part of us that are kind of like the inner critic, right? So the inner critic is the part of us that tries to shame us or criticize us or suppress us or oppress us. Inner controller can also try to control things, you know, they want to fix things and change things. And then the woundeds are the parts that are wounded, the parts of us that carry our sadness, our fear, our pain, our sense of defenselessness, our sense of hopelessness, helplessness, shame. Woundeds can also be very angry too, angry at the world for being the way it is. A lot of woundeds are also really confused. I said this in the other Facebook Live. They're really confused. They don't understand, you know, why are people mean? Why do people hurt me? The point of this is that we have these 3 types of inner struggles, and these are sort of the darkness within us. And I use that term meaningfully because that's oftentimes how we see them, and also because these are parts of our light, our inner empowers that have fallen into darkness. That's all they are. So the empowers, really quickly, our sovereign is the part of us that's very, very wise and intuitive and knowing and clear, and it knows our truth and who we are and who we're here to be. And then we've got the free spirit, which is the inner child, you know, the joyful, free, fun-loving, creative, artistic, free spirit, and it loves connection, like romantic connection. And then we have the impresario, and that's the very left brain part of us. It's very practical and logical and reasonable, you know, but it's also about survival. It's very concerned to make sure that we have everything we need to survive. So that's just a quick primer on the empowers and the expowers. These are things I discovered through my work, actually through my own experience with my inner darkness and learning to be in connection with my own inner darkness. And it was through connecting with my own darkness that I discovered my light and discovered the empowers. So this is what I teach. So anyway, again, going back to the original request of Zineb in Morocco, she said, I'd like you to share with us tips or patterns to follow in order to be more connected to ourselves. But first I want to explain actually what this is. Well, no, actually, sorry, let me go back. Hold on. Okay. So in terms of connecting, so when I was talking about interconnection, it's not just about connecting with, you know, the happy, wonderful parts of us that we love that, you know, seem to really work in our favor and they're great. It's also about connecting with the darkness inside of us, what we perceive to be the darkness, or the parts of us that are filled with fear or pain or shame or anger, the parts of us that show up that we don't like, that cause us to behave in ways that we don't like. That's these. So it's about connecting with both. So in answer to her question, here's how you connect with these. Okay, so we all have these. These are our 3 types of inner empowers. Now, some of you may look at this and say, oh yeah, I totally identify with that one. Oh yeah. A lot of people, especially I would even say like a lot of Americans, you know, very much impresario, because we're all about getting things done and being successful and making money. And, you know, that's very much part of the American culture. But you may feel like this is mostly you, but everybody's got all 3. Sometimes we have a predominance of one over another. That's fine. I actually can't really decide if I'm like predominantly this or that, but it doesn't matter. We have all 3, and we have all 3 because we need all 3, okay? Now, connecting with your inner empowers, sometimes people can feel so completely clouded by that darkness, by those inner struggles. It can feel kind of difficult. So if you're sort of getting a little, oh, about this, that's okay, all right? Just be very patient and gentle with yourself, all right? It takes some time. But I'm going to teach you a really, really simple technique for how to honor these 3, how to honor your 3 empowers. Are you ready? Okay, you can write this down, or actually if you go to my website, thenewselfempowerment.com, stick in your name and email, and it actually sends this to you, just so you know. But there's a really simple and easy way for honoring the light, connecting with this light within us, okay? You ask each one, this is just one technique, there are lots of techniques, but this is just one. You ask each one every morning, preferably, before you really start your day. Ask each one individually, what's one small thing I can do today that would feel good for you, okay? So ask each one of these individually. So like, for example, in the morning, I'll pull out my journal, I've got my pen, And before I start my day, I will ask each one individually. So let's say I start with my sovereign, you know, okay, I'll say, okay, hey sovereign, so what's one small thing I can do today that would feel good for you? Okay, emphasis on small today and feeling good, okay? So I might ask my sovereign, you know, what's one small thing I can do today that would feel good for you? That could range anything from go for a walk, to light a candle, to just take like 2 minutes to do deep breathing. It could be any number of things. Same thing, you know, with the free spirit, what's one small thing I can do today that would feel good for you? And I say this a lot, actually. My free spirit likes Starbucks cake pops. So, you know, my free spirit might be like, get a cake pop from Starbucks. Obviously, that's not really happening so much these days. But, you know, the free spirit might also say, you know what, get out and get some exercise. Or the free spirit might say, you know what, why don't you have some fun with a dream board? You know, pull up some images. So any number of things. The free spirit might say, sing a song. So again, we're talking one small thing, right? Not massive projects, one small thing I can do today, right? That will feel good for you, okay? And then the impresario, it might be something on my to-do list or something I've been putting off, you know, like call this person, send this email, write this, you know, this person or whatever, but always small. Or the impresario might actually be the one to say, go for a walk, you see? So the whole point is, these are the light parts of us, okay? This is our light within us, that when we honor it, so I call them empowers because they empower us to be who we're here to be. They empower us to live our truth. So when you honor them, you actually empower your empowers to empower you, okay? Because you're creating that connection with them. Remember, this whole Facebook Live is about connection with yourself. So this is all about connecting with the light parts of you, okay? The parts of you that already feel empowered, that are not impacted by pain and fear. And we all have these, no matter how dark you feel. I promise these are in you, all right? So that's one simple technique, and I'll put this in the comments later as well, just so you have it. So that's all about what's one small thing I can do today that would feel good for you. So that's all about connecting with your light, because remember I said if we're talking about connection with ourselves, it's not just about connecting with the happy parts of us. We also need to connect with some of the darker parts with us, and that's actually, that may feel like really scary to you. That's my favorite. It's like the coolest thing when you really start to understand this darkness inside. It's a huge part of my new book. My new unreleased book is about connecting with that darkness, because there's so much power and so much wisdom there. It's amazing. So I actually want to read a little bit from my new book about disconnection. So when we talk, so these are the three parts that I found, the X powers that are in our darkness, okay? These are those parts, they're types of us that we have within our darkness, okay? And so it's all about understanding them and realizing that these are not trying to hurt you, okay? I know that when we have these parts of us, so for example, if you have a part of you that's really angry and aggressive and reactive, you might be like, I don't want to feel that way, and try to suppress it. And I totally understand that. I did that for decades. But the point is, though, when you actually pay attention and you learn to understand these parts, you'll be blown away by what they can offer you and how much love and wisdom is in there, all right? So I just want to read this real quick from the book. So, disconnection. Everything in the dark bears the wound of disconnection. Something ruptures our sense of safety and connection, and a part of us falls into darkness. And then I talk about in every story we heard during our walk in the dark, this is in my book, this disruption took some form of rejection, violation, or loss, okay? So rejection, violation, and loss, or even the mere perception of those, can cause a part of us to feel unsafe and disconnected and to fall into darkness. Where there is disconnection, there is darkness. The deeper the disconnection, the deeper the darkness. This sense of disconnection is actually what I call our original wound, okay? It's the perception that we are disconnected from the light. So my point is, these are parts of us that because of some form of rejection, violation, or loss, or even the perception of those that we experience in our lives, especially in childhood, these are parts of us that literally went from being in the light and feeling loved and valued and all this other kind of stuff into falling into fear and pain and some form of darkness, if you will, sort of darkened our light. So, and then of course, part and parcel with that is fear. So everything in our darkness bears the scars of disconnection and fear, including our X powers. But then if the darks, this is the key. Going back to Zineb in Morocco, her question about connection and how do we connect with ourselves. If the dark's disease is disconnection, then what's the cure? Connection. If our original wound is the perception of disconnection, then what is the healing salve? Connection. So by actually connecting with these dark parts of us, with the quote unquote dark, okay, right? They're just perceived to be dark. With connecting with these dark, these parts of us, that's how we create the most incredible connection. Now there are ways to do that, but here's the thing, again, going back to, we tend to treat these parts of us with shame, and we tend to treat our darkness with shame and think there's something wrong with us, but I am telling you, they are simply parts of our empowers that have been distorted by fear and pain, okay? And that's what they've turned into. Again, this is all on my website, thenewselfempowerment.com. All right, so here's the thing. If you're talking about then reconnecting, and she asked for tips to connect with ourselves. Here are the main, so one of the big techniques that I do, that I create, is called the drawing out process. And that is an actual process. Within 2 hours, we can fully and lovingly reconnect you with these lost dark parts of you. And they actually turn from this into this. So that's something, just so you know, the drawing out process does that. But when I was thinking about, for writing this book, when I was thinking about, so what are sort of the, I know what the steps are to the process. There are certain steps to it, but what are the main kind of, what's sort of the broth, if you will, if this is like a soup, right? What's sort of the healing broth that these steps are delivered through? And there are 3 things, 3 ways that we can reconnect with ourselves. With curiosity, so being curious about these parts of us. Again, we've been taught to judge and reject and shame and criticize these parts of us because that's the way other people treated us, or that's the way we thought we were supposed to treat them. But instead, what if you're just curious? What if you're just curious? You know, there may be that inner critic inside of you that's, you know, telling you that, oh, you never do anything right, you're never good enough, blah, 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 blah. And what if you're just curious about it? Rather than actually believing it, or rather than letting it, you know, control your thoughts, what if you actually turn towards it and are like, well, I'm curious about that. So why do you think that? This may sound crazy because it means you're actually talking to yourself. But believe me, talking to yourself is one of the healthiest things you can do. I do it all the time, and I've gotten a lot healthier that way. But the point is, it's curiosity is the first one. Understanding. So when we're curious about these parts of us, we can come to understand them. Also, when we learn about them and the truths about them, and that's in my website, it's in my online program, thenewselfprogram.com, totally free, okay? So curiosity, and then understanding these parts of us, realizing these parts of us are not trying to hurt us. They actually think they're helping us. They think they're protecting us from pain, okay? So it's about having curiosity, understanding, right? Understanding the truth about these things inside of us that we fight, that we want to reject or think are bad. And then empathy. The truth is, these parts of us exist. Basically, well, they all exist because we have experienced some form of pain. Okay? Some form of pain or fear. This is the part of us that carries the most of that pain or fear, and the defenders and the controllers actually exist because of the wounded. Okay? Because of our wounds. So the whole point is, all of these parts of us have been with us through our fear and our pain. They're reacting to that. They're trying to protect us and take care of us whatever way they know. All right? So on some level, we can empathize with them because they get it. They've seen you hurt, they're hurting, we hurt. There's a sense of empathy there. And when we can empathize, empathy is the antidote to disconnection. Empathy is the antidote to fear. When we can actually empathize with these parts of us and realize that they're just doing the very best they can, just as we're doing the very best we can. That they're feeling angry because we feel angry, and we feel angry because they feel angry. So that's just, and again, there's so much more to this, so I can't even cover all of it, but I'm just giving you some quick nuggets. So curiosity, understanding, and empathy. In terms of connection with ourselves. Again, the original question was, please share with us tips or patterns to follow in order to be more connected to ourselves. My totally free online program actually breaks it down and teaches you how to do that in a little bit more detailed way. thenewselfprogram.com, okay? Totally free. thenewselfprogram.com. And if you take that and go through that, it teaches you how to honor your M powers and how to begin to heal these X powers. And one of the techniques I use is actually drawing them out. And I'm going to be doing a future Facebook Live because I had a request. What does that mean to draw out your struggles? I don't get it. And can you give an example? So I've been asked to do that, and I will do that. But really what I really want to impart more than anything is that it really is about going back to her Zineb in Morocco. She said, when we talk about connection, it's not only connection with others, but connection with ourselves. So please share with us tips or patterns to follow in order to be more connected to ourselves. And if there's anything I can impress upon you today is that the connecting with ourselves, that's true power, is connection with ourselves. As much as we may try to connect with other people, you know, some people will be open to that connection and then other people will disappoint us. And that's just the reality of it. But the true peace and the true power exists when we connect with ourselves. Earlier I said there is no peace in denying any part of who you are. And then I also add, accept all parts of you and you will know peace. So that peace comes through connecting with ourselves, not just the light empowers, though this is extremely powerful, that and what we perceive to be the darkness inside of us, because, and again, I really want to impress this, what we perceive to be our darkness is just distorted parts of our light, okay? They're not bad, they're not trying to hurt us, and if there's anything I can teach is that to learn to understand the truth about who you are, the truth about what's going on inside of you, so that you can patiently, gently, compassionately, empathically, understandingly, wisely connect with who you are. Because when you actually connect with these parts of you, you will discover power and wisdom you never expected. So, I hope this is helpful. I don't know if anybody's asked any questions. Let's see. Oh, you still have the card. Someone still has the postcard. I guess you have one of my postcards. Let's see. Just looking through. Hello, everybody. Hi, Brian. I'm glad you feel so connected. And Marlou, I'm glad you feel connected with Brian. Hi, Joe. Hi, everyone. Yes, Marua said it's way harder to connect with ourselves. You know what I find though? I have to say it's true. Connecting with ourselves is hard, especially if we've been taught to shame ourselves or, really reject parts of ourselves. It is really it's tough. As I said earlier in this Facebook Live, this is a great opportunity though to learn how to do that. So if you are curious about it and open, I really recommend taking my online program. I keep saying it, totally free. I'm not selling anything here. thenewselfprogram.com, and that will teach you these steps, very simple steps and understanding, so that you can find that it's actually easier to connect with yourself. I spent years, decades really, I'd been taught really to shame and reject parts of myself. And it was only when that didn't work and I fell into a dark night of the soul and I finally had to face that really severe and intense and horrific darkness inside of me, when it forced me to face it and I had to turn towards it, that's when I discovered the incredible richness and love and wisdom that had been waiting there for me all the time. It was just stuck. It was just caught in struggle and fear and pain. But when you learn to realize that no parts of you are actually trying to hurt you, they're just trying to protect you whatever way they know, then you can relate to those parts of you in a much more patient and kind and loving and gentle way. And then the connection with yourself, I mean, it's just, the feeling is extraordinary. It's just like, whew, you feel so much more whole and at peace. And not only that, not only is it easier, then you're more connected with yourself, so you're more tuned into yourself, and you're guided by a more deeper intuition, but also it's so much easier to connect with other people because you're not as triggered by them, because you're not as impacted by their moods, because you kind of go, oh, okay, I get it. Since I learned to understand me, then I learned to understand them. So it's so much easier to connect with others when you really are truly connected with yourself, okay? So I just want to really encourage you. Oh, Joe, you corrected it to keep on keeping our spirits up instead of sports. I was wondering about the sports comment. That's kind of hilarious. All right. Hello, everyone. It's so nice to see everyone. I just want to make sure. Oh, I'm glad, Umaima, I'm glad you like the exercise. Excellent. Just want to make sure I cover everybody. And yes, I still have the postcards. So I hope this has been helpful. I will put the links in the post. I really, really encourage you. Again, this is really, as crazy and scary as a time this is, I'm telling you that this time right now is prime for learning to truly connect with yourself without all the other distractions and running around and all of those kinds of things. I understand a lot of people have kids at home, so you have plenty of those distractions. But really the fact is, like, being forced to stay in one place is a fantastic opportunity for truly tuning into yourself and taking that time to tune into yourself. And I promise you, you have far more wisdom and love and clarity and goodness inside of you than you may ever even imagined. And it's all in there. And the more you connect with yourself, the more you will discover that. All right, I hope this has been helpful. Ask me questions. I'm gonna be doing more of these. I like a lot. So just whatever, like, what do you want me to talk about? What questions do you want me to answer? What do you want tips on, related to my work? Again, thenewselfempowerment.com. I'm here, okay? I'm stuck at home too. So, we're all captive audiences here, right? So let's do this, all right? All right, love you all. Hope this is helpful, and I will talk to you all again soon.